Tonight on Joynewsprime, Vice President announces construction of hospitals in 88 districts across the country will begin in the next 2 months.
Before the end of the year, hopefully, we would have made some significant progress. At least, I'm hoping we can roof all of them by the end of the year before we move.
Minority in Parliament accuses Central Bank Governor of acting illegally over 10 billion Ghana cedis advanced to government to shore up the economy following challenges as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic.
The Minister of Finance is trying to ask Parliament to give him approval to get Bank of Ghana to print for the Ministry of Finance or Government of Ghana an amount of 10 billion Ghana cedis. Today, we are aware that the central bank has breached this threshold.
Also in this bulletin, a Greek minister justifies his claim over the cost of a plantain bunch, but clarifies it was in reference to the price 2 years ago.
If you look at the records, 2 years ago, plantain prices were so low. We have the records. I will show you that at one point, a bunch of plantain was indeed 4 cedis.
And in business,
we hear from an economist on the implications of the country's debt talk of plans by the finance minister to seek 10 billion cedis from the central bank to help deal with COVID-19.
And later in the bulletin, can consumption of local gin or akpeteshi help build immunity against COVID-19? Some residents of Choko in Accra think so.
Have given us through alcohol. Choko here, there is no coronavirus in Choko.
But how true is this claim? We'll find out shortly. I'm Israelite, anchoring Joynewsprime live on your digital terrestrial TV because we are free to air.
And my name is Aisha Ibrahim, coming to you live from our studios in Kokomlemle on GA 09925339, also on Go TV channel 144 and DSTV channel 421.
In our first story, the minority is accusing the central bank governor of acting illegally over the decision to lend government 10 billion Ghana cedis to shore up the economy following challenges with the COVID-19 pandemic. They are cautioning him there will be accountability post-2020. The request for the amount was tabled by the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta in Parliament on Thursday, where he disclosed 5.5 billion cedis has already been released.
The Minister of Finance, the Governor of the Bank of Ghana, and the Controller and Accountant General, as required under Section 30 of the Bank of Ghana Act 202, Act 612, as amended, have agreed to trigger the emergency financing provisions under the law, which permits increasing the limit on the purchase of government securities by Bank of Ghana in the event of an emergency to help financial residual expenses. Mr. Speaker, government therefore decided to launch a special COVID-19 relief fund program with a size of Ghana cedis 10 billion. The coupon rate is pegged to the prevailing monetary policy rate of a 10-year tenor and 2-year moratorium on both principal and interest payments. I'm pleased to announce that the Bank of Ghana released the first tranche of the facility amounting to 5.5 billion to the Ministry of Finance on Friday, 15th May 2020.
Minority spokesperson on finance, Cassiel Atuforsing, has described the move as illegal. He says the decision by the bank to print more currency notes for government will endanger the economy.
The Minister of Finance is trying to ask Parliament to give him approval to borrow from Bank of Ghana or to get Bank of Ghana to print for the Ministry of Finance or Government of Ghana an amount of 10 billion Ghana cedis. 10 billion Ghana cedis. Today, we are aware that the central bank has breached this threshold. What they have done is that they have printed, as at last month, an amount of 5.5 billion Ghana cedis already and has given to the government of Ghana, breaching Section 30 of the Bank of Ghana Act. The law is clear that anytime you reach that limit, you have to come to Parliament. What they've done is that they have breached the limit, gone ahead to print more money to fund government operations without coming to Parliament. And so they just wanted to cover up.
Parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku-Gakpo is joining me via Zoom to break all of this down. Now, Joseph, what are the details of this document that has been laid in Parliament?
So this is a report that the finance minister has actually submitted requesting approval on an uplifting of the borrowing limits when it comes to the Bank of Ghana Act. And he says this is to deal with the coronavirus emergency that the nation is dealing with. Just to run you through the background, he indicated that currently when it comes to dealing with issues having to do with COVID-19, there is a fiscal gap in the budget to the tune of more than 27 billion, which has to be filled. Well, it's actually 21.4 billion because there is a 15.8 billion revenue shortfall, and then there's another 5.7 billion expenses that need to be spent to deal with COVID-19. Now they've gotten financing from a number of sources to deal with some of these challenges, including the money they got from the IMF, which is $1 billion, which is well in the region of 5.5 billion Ghana cedis. They also got another $350 million from the World Bank. They got $219 million from the Stabilization Fund. And currently, there still exists a gap of 17.9 billion Ghana cedis that needs to be filled. And so he indicated that per the Bank of Ghana Act, there was a conversation between him, the finance minister himself, as well as the governor of the Bank of Ghana, and also the Controller and Accountant General. And then under the subsection 30 of the Bank of Ghana Act, they agree that they will trigger the emergency financing provisions under the law, which will permit them to increase the limit on which they can actually purchase various government securities from the Bank of Ghana to help finance the rest of the amount. And it's in pursuance of that they're asking for a borrowing to the tune of 10 billion Ghana cedis from the Bank of Ghana. There is a 2-year moratorium on that. Within the 2 years, there will not be any payment. And then there will be a 10-year duration within which the amount will be paid back. When it comes to the interest rate, it's described as floating, so the interest rate could vary in the course of the duration. And from the disclosures of the finance minister, out of the 10 billion Ghana cedis, as at the 15th of May 2020, which is last week Friday, 5.5 billion has already been released, and it's remaining an amount of 4.5 billion that is to be released in the days ahead. And so he laid that document before Parliament earlier in the day, and it's been referred to the Committee on Finance for a report back to the House after.
All right, thank you very much, Joseph Opoku-Gakpo. But there's more controversy brewing. The Speaker of Parliament referred the request to Parliament's Finance Committee. The Majority Leader, Oseche Mensah-Bonsu, then explained the Finance Minister is only informing Parliament, but not necessarily seeking approval.
Parliament cannot, after we have the report from the Committee on Finance, decide that will not permit the Minister to take the advances from the Bank of Ghana. We cannot. We cannot read the Bank of Ghana Act. What is done is for the information of this House. Just as in an emergency situation, the Minister could take advances from the contingency fund, and when he does so and comes to report to us, it's for purposes of our information.
But Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu disagrees, insisting the transaction amounts to government borrowing and should be treated as such.
Borrowing from the central bank is borrowing, and it's a loan within the meaning of Article 181 of the Constitution. I know that beyond IMF, we're not supposed even to do 5% domestic borrowing, even though our law permitted up to 10% of total tax revenue of the previous year. Since we haven't seen the document, Mr. Speaker, he must be guided by the comprehensive provision of Section 31, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and Article 181 of the Constitution. So, Mr. Speaker, we will wait for when your Committee of Finance reports back to this House. Ghana beyond borrowing must be your primary objective now, not Ghana beyond aid. Ghana, positioning Ghana beyond borrowing, particularly escalating domestic debt.
Staying with Parliament, the MP for Sekondi, Andrew Kofi Ejapa Mensah, says the minority's call for proceedings in the House to be suspended is a ploy aimed at preventing the maturity of the Electoral Commission's constitutional instrument for the compilation of a new voters' register. The NDC MPs called for the suspension over reports that 2 legislators and 13 staff have tested positive for COVID-19. They contend that keeping the House in session, especially when there is no urgent business, is unduly endangering the lives of MPs and their constituents. The second MP, who was speaking on Prime Morning, said the NDC MP's proposal is politically motivated.
Who determines the urgency of business? Parliament has 3 meetings in every session. A session is 1 calendar year. And within that session, we are mandated to attend 3 meetings. We've done the first meeting for the year. We have gone on recess, come back to do the second meeting. When the second meeting schedule is over, we'll go back for another recess and come back and do the 3rd meeting. And so every meeting has its own agenda and program that has been tabled. And so to suggest that some of the items that have been scheduled for the meeting is not urgent, I fail to see how they can arrive at their conclusion. Look, let's call a spade a spade. Yes, we are not in normal times. Yes, we all know that if you do not comply with the safety protocols that have been laid out, chances of you contracting the virus is high. But of course, I heard him say that, look, if he goes to sit in the chamber, chairs have not been sanitized, vote committee meetings, people touch tables and all that. That is why we are all being enjoined to use hand sanitizers as much as possible if we are unable to wash our hands. And so I expect that as a member of parliament who is very much abreast with the safety protocols that have been outlaid, he would at all times be using the sanitizer to ensure that we do not contact the virus and infect others. You see, our friends on the NDC side are simply looking for the CI that the Electoral Commission has made before Parliament, not to mature. And so they should be bold and tell Ghanaians that that is the reason for the call, not for Parliament to be suspended and all that.
But MP for Kumbungu, Ras Mubarak, says continuing to hold proceedings in these times endangers MPs, their staff, as well as constituents. According to him, the majority of the CI currently before Parliament cannot be more important than the lives of 275 members of Parliament, the over 1,000 staff, and the health and safety of the people of Ghana.
A lot of the business of the House could wait, currently as it is, could wait a week or 2. But coming to the substantive issue of the voter register, why would you want to alienate a Ghanaian who is born in Ghana and who by virtue of birth in Ghana is entitled to have a voter ID card after attaining the age of 18 or above? Why would you want to exclude holders of birth certificates as true Ghanaians? Why would you want to impugn the integrity of the birth and death registry by saying that you cannot authenticate the birth certificates that are in circulation? Clearly, you are indicting another agency of state without proof. His point was completely mute. Insofar as we had in our laws what you call a dual nationality laws in existence. People could actually be on the American voter register and still be on the Ghanaian voter register. Now, again, they say they are taking out driver's license. Because you see, it's not every Ghanaian who has had access to the NIA registration. It's not every Ghanaian who holds a passport. My kids hold Ghanaian passports. Okay? So even if you add the number of kids who have
about 2 million. 2 million.
No, less than 2 million. Less than 2 million.
It's just hovering just around that.
Less than 2 million.
But then Vice Chairperson of Parliament's Communications Committee, Andrew Japat Mercer, says, though there is an e-Parliament service being tooled out in the House, standing orders do not allow for virtual meetings on platforms like Zoom.
The e-Parliament system that is intended to be rolled out was presented. Some presentations were made to the Select Committee on Communications, of which I'm the Vice Chairman and Ras is a member. This question came up, and were informed that, well, of course, at the time that they were developing it, this whole idea of virtual sittings, which is not contemplated by our standing orders, was not factored into the design. Okay, and now that COVID is with us, they have started thinking about the possibility of some reconfiguration to as it were, incorporate it into the system. That is possible, but as we have it, as we speak, it's not in place, and so we ought to see whether that conversation can be advanced to see how we can have virtual sittings.
Because I doubt it was in place.
Would require an amendment of our standing orders.
Also in this bulletin, Agric Minister Dr. Joynewsprime has justified his claim that a bunch of plantain costs as low as 4 Ghana cedis, adding the comment was taken out of context. The minister's comment last month was widely criticized, with many vigorously disputing the claim. Speaking outside Parliament House on Thursday, Dr. Joynewsprime said his comment was in reference to plantain prices 2 years ago.
This is the first time I'm making a comment on that. I was taken totally out of context, and I'm not prepared to go back there. If you look at the records, 2 years ago, plantain prices were so low. I mean, nobody can deny that. If you want to challenge that, we are the ones who keep records, statistics of prices in the markets. We have over 300 officials of the ministry in all the markets, major markets in Ghana. And we have the records. I will show you that at one point, a bunch of plantain was indeed 4 cedis here in Accra.
The minister has also been disputing claims that food prices have gone up as a result of COVID-19 and the restrictions imposed by government, insisting there is more than enough food in the country.
As soon as the lockdown was lifted, I was one of the first ministers to get out into the field, and I visited 5 forest regions. And in these, because of course the rains had started the beginning of the season, so I went out there to witness for myself what impact the lockdown had on them. And I'm saying to you that on the farm, I didn't see anything for me to get worried at all. In fact, I was very encouraged.
Government has announced construction of hospitals in 88 districts across the country will begin in the next 2 months. This is the first time a timeline has been given for the commencement of work on the standard 100-bed facilities in districts without hospitals. Vice President Mahamudu Bawumia, who announced this at the Jubilee House Thursday morning, said evidence of the construction will be seen in 2 months. Dr. Bawumia said he hopes roofing of the hospitals will be done by the end of the first term. My colleague Latif Idris has more.
So it's not just about the commencement of work on those 88 facilities across the country, but the Vice President is hopeful those facilities would at least be roofed before the administration finishes its first term in office.
We have, a focus on delivering on the largest investment by any government in our healthcare infrastructure in the last 50 years by constructing at least 88 standard design 100-bed hospitals with accommodation for doctors and nurses in districts without hospitals. So it's going to be a massive investment in healthcare over the next few years. But ladies and gentlemen, access is not only in providing physical infrastructure. The physical infrastructure will be there. By the next 2 months, all going well, the 88 hospitals will all start across the country. We will all physically see them rise by the grace of God. Before the end of the year, hopefully, we would have made some significant progress. At least, I'm hoping we can roof all of them by the end of the year before we move. So physical infrastructure is one thing. But access is not only in providing that. We need health professionals, not just the physical infrastructure. We need health professionals to deliver the services, and health professionals who are well trained to be able to make difficult decisions, sometimes even tragic choices in delivering health services. Training is therefore critical if any health system will survive over time. In the effort to train various cadres of staff to support the health delivery system, collaborative work between the education and health sectors is essential to ensure fairly adequate numbers of healthcare workers are trained. The College of Physicians and Surgeons was established.
On the scholarship scheme that has just been launched here at the Jubilee House, Vice President Mahmoud Bawumia says this is in fulfillment of a campaign promise and also a step towards realizing the World Health Organization standard of doctor-to-patient ratio in Ghana.
This is a major promise that President Nana Akufo-Addo made way back in 2016, and it is a promise fulfilled. I would like to stress that this government is committed to the health of Ghanaians and will do everything possible to assure all citizens of accessible, affordable, and available health service delivery across the nation. Together, we must work to ensure that the distribution of medical personnel across the country does not put some at a disadvantage. The improvements in the doctor-to-population ratio of 1 to 8,000 in 2019 still falls short of the World Health Organization standards of 1 to 1,320. Quite simply, we just need more doctors. We need more doctors. And if you even look at the regional dispersion of the doctors, you will see that some regions are way, way, way worse off than others. And we need more doctors to be able to fulfill that gap. And the government stands ready to play its part, even with all the fiscal challenges now imposed on us by COVID-19.
Now, as the world deals with the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, health experts have advocated hand washing and use of alcohol-based hand sanitizers. But here in the Accra suburb of Choko, there appears to be the belief that drinking local gin or akpeteshi could build immunity against the virus. In the third edition of our series under the Joy News Combating Fake News Project, Henry Kwesubedu explores the issue of alcohol use and coronavirus. And we're taking a break here on Joynewsprime, but still ahead in the bulletin in business, we'll hear from an economist on the implications on the country's debt stock of plans by the finance minister to seek 10 billion cedis from the central bank to help deal with COVID-19. Stay tuned in. This is Joynewsprime.
And it's time now for business. Sandra Apreno has the very latest from that world. Hi, Sandra.
Hi, birthday girl. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
We'll be lighting up tonight.
You know that kind of thing.
Yes, there's a lot to talk about in business. You know, we've run to the central bank to get some 10 billion Ghana cedis to deal with COVID-19 related issues on the economy.
I think we need
and
that.
A lot of issues are coming up, especially when our debt stock is rising. And that's what we'll be discussing in business.
Take it away, Sandra.
All right. Celebrating 25 years of joy, my name is Sandra Apeno. I'm here for business. The finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, has turned to the central bank to borrow 10 billion cedis to help address COVID-19 related challenges to the country's economy. Today, the minister laid a document in Parliament requesting an approval. As we speak, the document has been referred to the Finance Committee of Parliament for considerations. But there are concerns as to whether running to the central bank is the best option, and also the country's debt stock rising as a result of excessive borrowing. Joining me via phone lines is economist Professor Peter Korte. Prof, good evening and thanks so much for your time. First of all, our fiscal gap is 21.42 billion Ghana cedis, consisting of 15.85 billion cedis, and revenue shortfall also is around 5.57 billion cedis. Also, when you go down, you realize that COVID-19 expenditure is also, that's 5.15 7.5 billion Ghana cedis and 7 billion Ghana cedis. In order to fill this gap, Prof, we have borrowed 1 billion from the IMF and then also $350 million from the World Bank. And then we also borrowed 219 million from the Stabilization Fund. That leaves an outstanding amount of 17.9 billion Ghana cedis. So the question we are asking is, now that we are going to the central bank to borrow an extra 10 billion Ghana cedis, leaving 7.9 billion cedis, is that the best option? And secondly, where else can we raise this outstanding amount from? And I'm asking, first of all, whether running to the central bank is the best option, and then where else can we get the outstanding debt amount from?
Yeah, I certainly think so. We are not in normal times, and you realize there is a fiscal gap that has to be filled. If you recall, the U.S. government is borrowing about $3 trillion to fill its fiscal gap. Similarly, in Ghana, government has a fiscal gap which it has to fill. Now, the option will be either to borrow locally or to borrow from an international, often the capital markets or from the multilateral institutions. Already, we've benefited from IMF and the World Bank, so obviously that we may have to run to the capital market, but that will come with higher interest rates. So if the central bank has some surplus money to give to government, I think it's in the right direction. My concern will be how efficient or effective we use this money.
Hello, Prof.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so for me, I'm very much concerned about how effective or efficient we use this money.
Right, so when you say effective, what do you think is the right
government expenditure as far as this money is concerned? Otherwise, in my view, it is a good option to pursue.
Right. When you say effective way of using the money, where do you think we can best channel this amount to?
Well, at the moment, you realize health is of great concern. So the government can invest this money in the health sector. If hospitals need PPEs, they need other things to cope with the COVID-19 pandemic, certainly that is one area that we ought to invest in. Then also we need to revive the economy, the productive sectors of the economy. Agriculture is key. We have continued to provide fertilizer subsidy and other things. But this time round, I think we need to identify some players, some big players within the agribusiness value chain and support them so that we don't run into deep recession. We need to revive the real sector of the economy.
Right, well said, but as at the end of 2019, our debt stock was 218 billion Ghana cedis. Yes, we know we are not in normal times, but our debt stock is also rising. Should we be worried?
The debt stock is of concern to everybody. The World Bank, the IMF, I'm sure the government itself is also concerned about the rising debt stock. But as a developing country, we have challenging or developmental needs which have to be met, especially in these times where revenue from oil, revenue from other sources are dwindling. So it's of concern, but I will be much more concerned if this money is not used judiciously. If we borrow to invest, certainly we'll reap the benefits of the investment. But if we borrow to consume, that is where we have a challenge. And I'll be very concerned if these funds are not invested or used judiciously, but rather consumed in other kinds of things that we normally do. But if they are invested, like I mentioned, agriculture, into even research into developing the vaccine and other things, why not? For me, I support that.
Right. So we are running to the central bank to get an extra 10 billion Ghana cedis, leaving us an excess of 7.9 billion cedis. Where do you think we can raise this money from?
The extra could come from, again, if the multilateral institutions are willing to lend to us, it will be a second best option. The first best option would be for us to raise revenue domestically. If we can find alternative means of raising money or raising funds or revenue, that would be good. Some countries have even increased their VAT Israel and other countries have even increased their VAT in the midst of the COVID pandemic because they need to finance certain critical expenditures. Perhaps we need to have a debate on this, whether government would like to increase VAT marginally to rake in some revenue so it could finance critical expenditures. We need to survive. We need to live. So if health is of great concern to us, we need to find money to finance certain critical health expenditures.
Quickly before you go, Prof, Nigerian Central Bank has reduced its lending rate to 12.5%. What do you make of that, and should we be going towards that direction?
Yes, certainly. Any reduction in the policy rate or the lending rate is good to the private sector. And this is the time we need to revive the private sector. We've equally seen the central bank urge or directed commercial banks to reduce their lending rate by 2 percentage points. So as we speak, this is being enforced. Commercial banks have reduced their rates. Let's also bear in mind that these commercial banks borrow money or they take deposits from you and I, and they on-lend. So we cannot push them too hard, because if we do, their profitability can be affected, their cost of operations can be affected, and they won't be able to pay interest on our deposits. So we need to strike a good balance, in my view. But certainly, any reduction in the lending rate is certainly good to propel the private sector in this era of low growth rate, low revenue.
Thank you very much, Professor Peter Quartey. He is an economist.
My pleasure.
That's all for business for now. I'm back at 8 p.m. with more business news.
And it's time now for Showbiz. Becky is here with the very latest. Hi, Becky.
Hello to you, Aisha. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Good to see you.
Today, let's talk about Ishen. She's been trending, you know, the whole of yesterday and today because she confessed that she was, you know, once sleeping with her former manager, and things went bad. I mean, in the whole story, his artist song, Nana Blue song, rather than, you know, talking about Ishen. So basically, he didn't really say anything.
Go into all the controversy, but he's just justifying why they should play his new artist song.
But Shatawale has finally, revealed that he sacked his SM militants. This is why. All these songs, I don't know what he actually means by that. But
so they're all Sha.
Well, according to Shatawale, I can't say that. So Aisha, there's a new kid on the block. There's a rapper that we've discovered, and she's saying that she would take Ghana by storm with her music.
Oh wow.
Lighter, lighter, give me the 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 lighter. Wash your hands, lighter, Aisha, you're right. Now be the lighter, lighter, wait on her lighter, 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 no mommy.
Thank you so much, but I shouldn't have brought this on air. And that'll be it for Showbiz.
When the Bundesliga started, lots of people were happy, but they felt the cream had not announced themselves. And that's how we begin the Joynewsprime Sport. I'm Gary Al Smith. Today, the Premier League season is set to restart on the 17th of June with Aston Villa versus Sheffield United and Man City versus Arsenal, and that is official. Safety guidelines are yet to be issued by the government of the United Kingdom, and decisions will remain subject to the continuing fight against COVID-19. Moses Yeboah of our desk has more. Now, as at midday today, it felt like only the Bundesliga had started, but guess what? By 5 p.m., it seemed like league after league after league was giving us an announcement, and so we've put it all here for you to know. Today we've got the announcement also that Serie A will be back on June the 20th, the Premier League on the 17th, La Liga on the 8th, the Portuguese Liga on the 3rd, all of June, the MLS in the US in June, but no date. Turkey also announced today that they are coming back on the 12th, and Tunisia said they are coming back in August 2020. Let's do some news from Ghana, and today also, the Menchia Palace named a new 9-member Kotoko board. The big news is that Dr. Kwame has been retained. And of course, he's the chairman of the Unity Group. He's the executive chairman of Asante Kotoko. And the vice chairman is Mr. Jude Arthur. We have a board chairman of Ghana Exim Bank in Mr. Kojo Boatin Jemfi, who is a member now of Kotoko. Another member is Mr. Kwesi Osaifori, CEO of Rockshore Mining, and Alaji Lamin, who is a businessman. Others are, in terms of members, Lawyer Kwamina Mensah, Mr. Joseph Yao Edu, and Miss Evelyn Insiasari. You might remember her name from the GFA elections. She lost the Women's League votes by only 1 point, and she's a rising star in Ghanaian politics. Bafo Kwame Kusi is also Otumfuo's and Kobiahene and is part of Kotoko's new board. So that's the sport for now. I'll be back for those of you on Joy News, but on Joynewsprime still to come. Ahead in the bulletin, scam alert. National security operatives are aggressively searching for an alleged Facebook fraudster. His name is Prince Joel, for impersonating public officers and duping some Ghanaians. More to come.
All the money that my wife used in trading, I collected that money thinking that I had got the job. He said he was giving me a job from Tamawaya Refinery. So I thought that job would be going on so I could, at the end of the month, could repay back my wife. But up to today, nothing.
That will be after the hour. For those of you on Joynewsprime, good night.
Now to the rest of our stories, and personnel of the Nima police and inmates of the cells there are to be retested for coronavirus as a suspect test positive. That is according to Nima Divisional Commander ACP Abraham Akwe. He has been speaking to the media after Zoom Lion disinfected 70 cells, police stations and barracks in the Accra region. Maxwell Agbagba has more in the following report.
And I think it is one of them, yes, one of them who was brought here tested positive, yes. So we have already taken him and sent him to Accra, right? Yeah, where he has been quarantined, and that is even the reason why this exercise has come at the right time. Yesterday, we arranged with Dr. Tunyakon to dispatch his men to come and then do another retest. We want to make sure that nobody has been infested. Yes, he has given us assurance that roughly by Friday or latest by Monday, he will send his team to come and then retest all the personnel as well as the inmates.
The coronavirus pandemic has changed every aspect of our life, including policing. Well, the team has also been disinfecting the barracks, the cells, and all the offices here at the airport district police headquarters. I've been speaking to the commander, who has been talking about how helpful this disinfection exercise is going to be to the police service.
The policing of late is very hectic. It's very difficult because we have recalcitrant people in society who are not respecting the social distancing and what have you. The protocols are not being observed to the latter. So sometimes you encounter such difficulties and we have to educate them. Sometimes we get in touch with recalcitrant ones that they have to be brought to the police station at least to be, educated properly. Very helpful. I know it's going to go a long way to help us because we have a lot of clients coming to the police station every now and then. They come to touch our doors, our tables, our chairs, and what have you. Others come and they will sneeze and all that.
I've been speaking to the Accra Zone General Manager of Zoom Lion, Ernest Morgan Aqua, who says that today's disinfection exercise marks the last day, and they've been disinfecting about 70 police stations.
Today marks the last day of our disinfection of the police, and we are tackling all the police stations in Accra today. So far, so good. You know, everybody is happy that we are doing this exercise, and actually they are calling for more. Places that we have even done already that they suspect incidents of the virus are calling us to come and do it again.
The team has also been disinfecting the East Legon police station. We've been speaking to the divisional commander, Chief Superintendent Bismarck Ejipon, and he says that they are no longer detaining minor offenders here because they want to adhere to social distancing protocol. He has also been talking about all the measures they've put in place to ensure that the inmates and police personnel here are safe from the virus.
We don't have many inmates. We have made effort to actually people who come here with minor cases to be on bail, get sureties to sign for them so that they'll be reporting rather than keeping them and putting everybody in custody. So that is one measure. And if you look around, we have these Veronica buckets, we have sanitizers, and we make sure before people come in, they wash their hands and they sanitize their hands. Also, if you look closely at the charge office, you know, we have made effort to space out by creating a social distance.
Ghana Health Service says it is working closely with prison authorities to avert the possibility of an outbreak of coronavirus in correctional facilities across the country. Director of Institutional Care, Dr. Samuel Kaba Akoria, says because of the dynamics of the virus, stringent measures are being rolled out in the prisons, including protection of medical and health officials and screening of visitors. Some correctional facilities have also created isolation centers where fresh inmates are held for between 14 and 28 days before transfer to the general population of inmates. Latif Idris visited the Nsawam Medium Security Prison and has more in the following report.
As the nation battles to beat and get ahead of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Nsawam Medium Security Prison is not left out. Authorities here have placed measures in place to prevent the COVID-19 from sneaking into the prison yard and affecting the general population of inmates and the prison officers. We are here to take you through the protocol that have been put in place to beat and get ahead of the pandemic here at the Nsawam Medium Security Prisons.
Now we are at a place where visitors, people who come to visit their relatives and loved ones, are first received. When they come here, before we start with any process, they are supposed to wash their hands. So let me, yes, so let me go and demonstrate. Doctor, can you assist me? So they come.
Okay, so you wash your hands?
You wash your hands nicely. Okay. You come here. Yes, ultimately. So this is where the details of the visitor, the one he's here to visit, as well as the things he wants to bring to his loved one, are recorded.
Well, working with people who have possibly not experienced situations like this is definitely not going to be easy, because sometimes the experience people have at other places, when they come here, normally we talk to them in the morning. So those who are always present during the first hours, we talk to them and they get to understand. But those who come later, because even as at now, we are still expecting visitors. Those who come later, sometimes the experience they've had somewhere, they try to bring it here. But then once we talk to them, we let them understand that here is a security service, and we are also with the health, the security service with the health sector.
This is ensured in almost all prisons in Ghana. You have to knock, a kind of a knock, for the officer inside to view you, to know the kind of person who wants to enter. This is a way that every officer entering the prison have to tap. But in view of this coronavirus, one officer is designated for that. So any officer who gets here, he is wearing the hand glove and he will make sure he will tap.
Tell us how concerned the Ghana Health Service is with prisons generally, not just the Nsawam Medium Security Prisons, in case we have a COVID case sneaking in.
Yeah, all right. So, you know, our concern is to make sure that we do not register any case in confined places like prisons. And because of the nature of spread, that will be detrimental. Right now, we are very happy that at least here in Nsawam, there is no case. So our concern now is to make sure that the doctors, the nurses are well protected. But beyond that is to look at these safety measures that they've put in place so that people coming to visit their relatives, people coming, even the officers who work here, when they are coming on a daily basis, we make sure that they are well disinfected before.
Now, national security operatives say the search continues for an alleged Facebook fraudster, Prince Joel, for impersonating public officers and duping some Ghanaians. According to the state prosecutors, Prince Joel, together with his wife, who is in the grips of the national security, created multiple Facebook accounts, promising to recruit people into state agencies. Minister of Information Kojo Nkrumah, Foreign Affairs Minister Shirley Ayokoboche were among the many names whose names were used fraudulently. Prosecutor on the case, Frederick Sapong, says so far 10 victims have reported the case to the police and are assisting with investigations, although they may be in the hundreds. My colleague Nancy Emefa-Jadozi has been following the story and has come through with this report.
Has come into our country and has taken advantage of our loopholes. It's very disturbing. I think we are not safe as Ghanaians at all.
An angry victim I choose to call Afi. Right after joining an online church service, she received a message from a scammer impersonating the information minister, Kojo Nkrumah.
He was my student sometime. I don't want to say the educational level, so I trusted that I was talking to my students. And then it talked about a stimulus package. I thought that, well, for us teachers, we always, at a point in time, we get our students remembering us. So I thought it was a good thing that my students had remembered me. Then he said I should talk to somebody who was a PA or something. So the person, he gave me the person's number, and then I called him, only to be told that I should give them 70 cedis or so.
Afi paid the amount, but that was the last amount. She noticed it was a scam.
It really crossed my mind that, why would my student who's been turned into a politician, why would he want to take only 70 cedis to register me for something like that? So immediately I sent them and I said, no, this is a scam.
It's very pathetic. It's very pathetic. We are managing. It's very pathetic.
Not everyone noticed this scam early. Another man I choose to call Kwesi was desperate to get a job after being unemployed for some time. Kwesi also received a message from an account bearing the name of the Foreign Affairs Minister, Shirley Ayokoboche. Kwesi says he was so desperate that he fell for the trap.
When I went on Facebook and saw Shirley Ayokoboche requesting for friend. So after I requested, she replied and then asked me, what can I do for you? Then I said, I'm jobless, I need a job. So he said I should wait. Later on, he gave me a number, a name by Bafo Sekufo, and then he said I should contact him. After contacting Bafo Sekufo, he asked me to pay a series of money, which I did. It amounted to about 6,000 Ghana cedi.
After enticing offers, Kwesi borrowed an amount of 6,000 Ghana cedis from his wife, a petty trader. Now, they are buried in debt.
All the money that my wife used in trading, I collected that money thinking that I had got the job. He said he was giving me a job from Oil Refinery. So I thought that job would be going on so I could, at the end of the month, could repay back my wife. But up to today, nothing.
Afi and Kwesi are both concerned about different things. Afi wants the loopholes in the system to be sealed.
Just 70 Ghana cedis, but it wouldn't have been anything but the fact that a foreigner could just come, stay in our country, and get access to our media, without any restriction is worrying.
Kwesi needs his money, and that's all he wants.
A matter of after the court, they should see that they refund the money to me when the guy is caught.
Meanwhile, the prosecutor on the case, Frederick Sapong, says the national security has so far received complaints from 10 victims who have been duped to the tune of 15,000 Ghana cedis.
During the month of April, Sajida Vivian Imran and her husband, Prince Joel, used the names and photographs of several ministers to create multiple accounts of Facebook and pretended to be the said ministers.
Meanwhile, his outfit is still on a manhunt for a Nigerian Facebook fraudster, Prince Joel, after the arrest of his wife.
They were tracked down to their house at Ashaima and Jericho, where Vivian was arrested, but the husband, Prince Joel, managed to escape arrest. After the arrest, the investigators conducted a search in the rooms of the accused persons, and they found 6 mobile phones with the phone numbers that were used to receive money from the victims through mobile money.
The national security is asking persons who may have fallen victim to such scams to come forward and assist with investigations.
And MPP General Secretary John Boadu is demanding mass registration for the Ghana card instead of a mop-up, as suggested by the National Identification Authority. He says the governing MPP will resist any attempt by the authority to focus on areas it encountered challenges during the initial mass registration exercise. The party fears over 60% of applicants yet to receive their cards are within its strongholds, including the Ashanti and Eastern regions. Mr. Boadu argues a mop-up will affect the party's fortunes in the December polls. He has been speaking with Joynews's Kwesi Parker-Wilson.
I disagree with the position that they will do a mop-up in some few areas that they think that they were unable to do it. Because if you consider, and if I want to be political about it, if you consider the number of people who have not yet received their cards, Central region, Ashanti region, Eastern region, and Greater Accra alone constitute about 68% of those who have not received their card yet. All the other regions, 12 regions, constitute just around 32%. So if you want to talk about connivance with NIA to disenfranchise people, it is we, the New Patriotic Party, that will lose a lot. But if you have 4 of our strongholds, Central region, Ashanti region, Greater Accra and Eastern region, constituting 68% of those who have not yet been issued their cards, who should be complaining? It is the New Patriotic Party who should be complaining.
Then isn't there enough grounds?
Wait. It is the New Patriotic Party who will be complaining. So for anybody to think that we are rather in connivance with NIA begs the question. I don't think that they even understand what they are talking about. If you come to the number of people who are qualified to be enrolled, who are not yet enrolled, if you take these 4 regions in question, Ashanti, Eastern, Central, and Greater Accra, close to 45% of the total population who are qualified to be enrolled, who are not yet enrolled, comes from this region. To the extent that over 1 million people in Ashanti region have not been, who are qualified to be enrolled, have not been enrolled. So any attempt by NIA to do a mop-up without doing a mass registration will not sit well with us. So it is, yeah, I'm telling you, so it is not, as for the NDC, they are only making noise. Maybe they are aware of this, and because of that, they want to just make some kind of noise in order to stop the NIA from doing mass registration. Within this period in question, it is important to note that a lot more people who are qualified to be enrolled on the NIA roll have not yet been done. Those who have been done have not yet been issued their cards. Within the period, NIA, if considering our situation, should be able to issue their cards to them and also go ahead to do mass registration, not mop-up.
Meanwhile, Deputy Director of NADMO, Abu Ramadan, is backing the Electoral Commission's resolve to compile a new voters register for the December polls. He argues that in spite of the Supreme Court's directive to rid the voters register of unqualified names, in 2016, the EC was unable to completely carry out the order. At a news conference on Thursday, Mr. Ramadan insisted the current register is therefore unfit for any election.
When we say the voters register is not credible, we are not saying that it is full of foreigners or that a majority of people on the register are non-Ghanaians. It is not just that. Yes, it is true that some people who are not Ghanaians are on the register. That in itself is substantially illegal. In terms of due process, illegality, then all Ghanaians who used the NHIS card are equally guilty. Clearly, even if the EC should decide to accommodate the use of voters' ID cards as proof of qualification, it is forever barred by the Supreme Court from using a card acquired from 2012 till date. The voters' ID card acquired under CI 72, having been perpetually injuncted as far back as 2014, any person who has since used the said voter's ID card as basis to guarantee for another registrant has done so illegally. And like we said earlier, such an act is tantamount to COVID-19 trail of infection and its attendant contact tracing difficulties. The voters register need to be rid of such names to make same credible. We have, however, finally breathed a sigh of relief at long last. The EC has decided to take us on a path that will result in a credible and accurate voters register. We applaud the EC and fully throw our weight behind them as they embark on this all-important constitutional agenda, unless they go off track. We humbly call on all well-meaning Ghanaians to give their full support to the EC as they take steps to do the needful by giving effect to judgments made by the Supreme Court 6 years ago. Truth be told, the current voters register and the NHIS registrants issue is a Gary mixed with sand scenario. And the only remedy that can separate one from the other is a fresh register.
The National Union of Ghana Students NUGS wants government to reopen schools for only final year students in the senior high schools and universities. The proposal comes even as government prepares to detail guidelines on the easing of COVID-19 restrictions. There's a lot of uncertainty about how government intends to approach the resumption of academic work. But the NUGS president, Isaac J. Hyde, at a news conference in Accra Thursday, has some ideas for government.
Based on their triangulated data analysis and reviews, government should adopt a gradualist approach to reopening of schools. We are calling on government to approach a gradualist manner in reopening of schools. We therefore propose that in order to respond positively to safeguard the future of our students and children despite the current times, government should consider imposing special restrictions to the operations of schools. We recommend these special restrictions from now to September until further notice. In this restriction, we propose that all final year students of the junior high schools, senior high schools, tertiary should be allowed to return to the classroom, but with strict adherence to health protocols like social distancing, limited contact hours, few people to teacher ratio, decongestion of the classrooms, and many others. This will afford them the opportunity to prepare to take their transition exams in the usual physical session. As you are aware, BEC students must take their exams in order to move on to the senior high schools. Senior high school students must also write their WASI exams in order to move to the universities. We cannot afford to break this chain, and therefore we need to find a way around it.
Hello again and welcome back to Business. Ghana could soon be removed from the list of countries with serious lapses when it comes to money laundering and terrorism financing. This is because the Financial Intelligence Center is currently implementing measures that push the European Union to review its recent warning about the country and decision to scrutinize financial transactions from Ghana. Charles Saite has more in the following report.
Financial Intelligence Center, it is already working with the globally recognized body body that supervises the fight against money laundering to protect the country against these practices. According to sources close to the center, it is currently implementing an action plan which would see Ghana classified as a fully compliant country when it comes to having the right systems against money laundering and terrorism financing. Joybusiness understands that at the recent review meeting in France, Ghana was given high praise over how it has implemented its action plan. This should mean that before December this year, Ghana may be recognized as an anti-money laundering compliant country. We are learning that the Financial Intelligence Center is currently working with all the relevant government agencies in the country to deal with all these challenges when it comes to money laundering and terrorism financing. The European Union recently in a statement announced that it will blacklist Ghana by October this year if the country does not take measures to address challenges regarding deficiencies giving way to money laundering. The Finance Ministry, on the other hand, has described the action by the European Union as unfortunate. This is because steps are being taken to deal with all these problems identified. Information being gathered indicates that the country has filed an official protest at the European Union headquarters in Brussels. The warning from the European Union could mean that there would be serious security scrutiny anytime a bank or business from Ghana wants to carry out any transaction with their counterparts in the European Union.
Meanwhile, security intelligence analyst with E-Crime Bureau, Eric Kweku-Mensah, has been speaking on measures to step up the fight against money laundering.
What I understand is that Ghana, the authorities, the FIC, the Bank of Ghana, are saying that Ghana was not duly consulted before that list came out. So that is what is being contested, because usually when these vulnerability areas are identified, when these deficiency areas are identified, you would have to give the country the opportunity to speak for itself and then tell you what they put in place in order to mitigate money laundering in the country. For we going off the list, it will take a lot of effort from the leadership for them to be able to provide proof that those deficiency areas, we have done enough. We have passed enough laws, we passed enough regulations to be able to mitigate money laundering. Yeah. So I think that when they push further and get more information to back their points, they will be able to get their names off the list. For money laundering, it's a very complex situation. In fact, from the regulatory point of view, from those on the grounds, even like the financial institutions, certainly when transactions are being conducted, it goes through the financial institutions, and it will take a lot more effort for the financial institutions to do their KYCs and then the CDDs on all transactions before the transactions go through. So I think that way forward, the Bank of Ghana, the FIC would have to strictly enforce the regulations so that the financial institutions report all suspicious transactions to them.
4 savings and loans companies have so far approached the central bank for liquidity support. This was revealed to Joybusiness by the Executive Secretary of the Ghana Association of Savings and Loans Company, Chinebua Kodria Boachi. According to him, their members are waiting Bank of Ghana to come up with some modalities before taking an action.
In terms of how much, the interest rates, the tenor, Bank of Ghana has not given out yet. Those are part of the details and modalities we believe they will soon issue out to the institutions. But it is our expectation that it will not be a long-term financing, because this temporary liquidity support, so not long-term. Again, on the issue of interest rates, we are looking at, if they are considering anything, they should look around the policy rate or even lower. And then with the issue of the amount, I believe that it will be on case-by-case basis, because an institution may need 5 million cedis to close a gap or somebody may also need 10 million or 20 million. So that one we are not very sure. I believe that it will be on case-by-case basis. And when they come, we will embrace it and ensure that we utilize it for the purpose for which it was requested for. So far, I'm aware of about 4 institutions who have approached the central bank for such a support, and we are waiting for the modalities that will let other institutions take a decision as to whether they may need from the central bank. Don't forget that the central bank is a lender of last resort. And so when other avenues fail, then you go back to the central bank. And I believe that the posture of the central bank at this critical time is something that is commendable, and let's all support the building process.
In other news tonight, Access Bank Ghana has stepped up its COVID-19 relief efforts to help alleviate dire situations in various communities across the country. The financial institution has embarked on the distribution of additional 300,000 cedis of food, sanitary and personal protective equipment to over 15 municipalities across the country. Commenting on the donation, Managing Director of Access Bank, Mr. Olumide Olatunji, indicated the coronavirus has brought untold hardship to many people across the country, especially the vulnerable and less privileged in society, hence the need to support.
Responding to calls to help alleviate dire situations in various communities across the country, Access Bank Ghana has stepped up its COVID-19 support efforts by earmarking 300,000 Ghana cedis for food, sanitary and personal protective equipment across the country.
Access Bank has lent its support somewhere in the region of over 1 million Ghana cedis to this COVID fight. You will recall that at the beginning of this pandemic, Access Bank, through the Ghana Association of Bankers, donated almost 500,000 cedis to the government COVID fund. The bank went on further again to donate an ambulance to the University of Professional Studies to cater to emergency cases on campus and also in the community. This brings to a total of 1 million Ghana cedis that the bank has invested to support in the fight against this pandemic.
Each of the beneficiary municipalities receive food, sanitary and personal protective equipment such as gloves, sanitizers, protective face masks, rice, cooking oil, tomato puree, canned mackerel, soaps and toilet rolls, among others. The various municipal chief executives and traditional leaders appreciated the bank's efforts for reaching out to their members and encouraged people to adhere to the preventive protocols outlined by authorities.
Access Bank, actually, we are grateful. We thank Access Bank so much. We are grateful. We appreciate the gesture which is just given to us. And then we can assure them we are going to give it to our needy, our poor. And then what Access Bank did, actually, they really surprised us because we didn't get from any of the banks, Access Banks alone. Thank you so much.
Access Bank has continuously led the fight and joined hands with other relevant stakeholders to provide relief to its employees, customers and communities within which it operates. Within the last few weeks, the bank has activated its business continuity measures whilst leveraging its over 1,300 staff to anchor a behavioural change and preventive education campaign to protect lives and promote the use of its digital offerings by customers. Some of the measures implemented by the bank also include waivers on all interbank transfers, upward review of limits for transactions on digital products, relief to business customers severely affected by the pandemic, and free webinars for customers on measures to take during this period to sustain growth.
And we have commodity news updates up next. For the business news this evening with me, Sandra Esenam App, and you can log on to myjoyline.com/business for more business news updates. Please do stay home, stay safe and stay beautiful. Thanks so much for watching.
the first part of the sport, I was giving you a list, a roll call of leagues that are returning their top flight status after COVID-19. Football is fighting back. And tonight, Denmark has become the second country in Western Europe to restart their league season after neighboring Germany. Now, in the opening fixture, the town you see, Aarhus, are welcoming their local rivals, Randers, but it is on the sidelines where history will really be made. Now, in front of one stand, a giant screen like you just saw in the picture, 40 meters long and 3 meters high, will be filled with fans, and they'll be watching the football match live via Zoom. Yes, the Zoom that we use in Joy News. They are going to be watching the match in the stadium via Zoom. Earlier, I spoke to a Danish journalist, his name is Klaus Egeland, about how expectant people are.
So people will have to be sitting at home watching the game on television. And as a new thing in the world, this match between Aarhus and Randers will also be a setting for a big Zoom event where people, they can log into the Zoom accounts and watch the match through Zoom. They will be displayed on huge screens in the stadium during the match, which will add some sort of atmosphere. It will not seem completely empty. So a lot of new things are happening in Denmark in connection with the restart. There is also a drive-in screening of the match, which will take place in a few hours. So brave new world, brave new initiatives, and hopefully this will signal the start of a normal life once again.
So that's the Danish journalist speaking. The people will be watching via Zoom, and it's important to note that the club is offering the Zoom seats, if you like, for free, absolutely free. Gary Smith, and that's the sport for now. Thank you for your time.
All right, so time for Joy News Interactive, and I'm going to be taking you through some of the things that have been happening today. In fact, most of today, it has to do with trending, essentially, menstruation, MH Day, hashtag MH Day 2020, and it turned out that, well, we put out a post, or there was a live online panel discussion that people had took issues with. But I'm going to take you through what actually happened. So it starts with me putting out a tweet and saying that while girls have to endure menstruation every month, men, boys don't and cannot, though so central to a woman's ability to birth. It is messy and embarrassing for those who, without knowledge or resources to manage it well, not to speak of the pain. And then I followed up and says MH Day 2026 to highlight the need for everyone to advocate support for women and girls who do not have the resources and or knowledge to go through their periods without worries. Let's ensure menstrual equity, especially during COVID-19. All right, so this was the initial tweet that went out. And then there was this other tweet that was supposed to invite people to join the conversation. Join the conversation, except that people decided that they won't join the conversation, but rather share the artwork. And they shared the artwork and made quite a bit of noise about it. So here's the artwork, and this is why it was trending. I invited, so join me, let's have this conversation about menstrual hygiene as the world marks MH Day 2020. Conversations such as these help demystify a subject that has unfortunately been a taboo. It had 4,000 retweets, which is why it's been trending. Except most people didn't quite follow the conversation. But the conversations are all here on my Twitter feed. If you go there, there was one that had to do with just women. That was yesterday. And then there was another panel conversation, this time with men. And the whole idea of having men taking part in the conversation is because people have seen the issue of menstruation as a taboo, and they don't think that anybody should talk about it. But seeing men or watching men talk about it could help demystify it. But you can go onto my Twitter page and get to read a lot more. But that'll be it for the bulletin. I'm handing over to Aisha Ibrahim, who is celebrating her birthday. Happy birthday to you. Aisha. But that'll be it for the bulletin for me. I'm Israel. I am Queen Gomo.
Thank you very much, Israel. And we appreciate you for advocating for people not to stigmatize women and girls during menstruation. Good work there. Keep up the good work. And that'll be it for the bulletin. My name is Joynewsprime. Many thanks for watching. PM Express is happening. Stay tuned. Thanks so much for watching.